Welcome to the Optimal Bio podcast. At Optimal Bio, we don't just balance your hormones, we balance your whole body. Our conversations range from nutrition to medicine with an emphasis on wellness tips to support your health journey. If you like what you hear, find us on the web at optimalbio.com and follow the podcast so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Optimal Bio's Wellness Series. I'm excited today to have Nishal Kumar as our special guest. Super excited because he's got some phenomenal products that I think you'll be very interested in learning about, but I'm also excited as a fellow entrepreneur to talk to him about how he got started and his journey and what have you. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much, Jim. Excited to chat with you today and really looking forward to it.
So usually I just kick it back over to you and let you do a little intro of yourself and your background and what have you, and then we kind of just wing it from there. So I'll turn it over to you.
Love it. So like Jim said, my name is Nishal Kumar. I'm from Vancouver, British Columbia. Very passionate about science, solving problems. I have a degree, a bachelor's degree, in science, geophysics, and commerce. I've worked in engineering. I've worked in sales and marketing roles for Tesla. And then I've also started a couple of my own businesses as well. Really got going as an entrepreneur in creating a brand called EV Items, which was actually a Tesla aftermarket parts business. And I did that shortly after leaving the company. Automated that a bit, and then had a little bit more time on my hands and decided to start No Days Wasted as really what started as a personal science experiment for myself, and turned and evolved into a business.
So how'd you get the name No Days Wasted?
So to give a little context, we started off just as our hero product, DHM Detox, and naming that was, I find I'm not really good with naming things. So when it comes to having a child down the road, I don't think I'm going to be in charge of naming them. I'll leave that to my wife, my future wife. But DHM Detox actually came to be because we wanted to own. We found DHM as a very powerful ingredient that wasn't being used a whole lot. It'd been used for centuries in traditional Chinese medicine and as a very powerful antioxidant, but it was kind of in its infancy in North America in its widespread use. So DHM had to be in the name from a search perspective, owning sort of the search, and then detox. It helps detoxify and break down the toxins associated with alcohol. So that's how it came to be. After that, started with that standalone product, and then learned, about branding and how you build a brand and naming, and really the messaging. So No Days Wasted was kind of our little mantra behind the scenes of, we don't like wasting time. We like maximizing all life's moments, feeling our best all the time. So it kind of just came organically.
That's pretty cool. So take me back. You said you love science. When did you figure out that you love science? Were you, 5 years old and you love going out and, looking at nature and checking out the sticks and the leaves and everything? Or, was there a certain moment in time, where, you knew your path was going to be centered around science to some extent?
Yeah, it's pretty wild because, call it in elementary school, I loved math and I actually loved social studies, and sort of like more of the political sciences and learning about civilizations that came to be before us. But I actually didn't do all too well in science class. I just didn't really, I don't know, I wasn't too keen on it. But then high school came around and the courses got more structured. We started to really segment between biology, chemistry, physics. And I realized I really cared a lot for chemistry. And I started watching actually House, Dr. House, the TV show. And I'm like, this is so cool. You can be this diagnostician solving problems, really glorified being a doctor for me. So at that point, I was like, hey, this is cool. Let's learn more about science. Let's immerse ourselves more in chemistry, biology, the building blocks of life. And, and then I truly became passionate about it through that TV show. and which, led me down to continue to study it and want to, pursue being a doctor. But eventually that didn't happen because I like a little bit more balance in my life, and I didn't have the time to commit. But yeah, it was interesting. Just a really awesome show is kind of what pushed me in that direction.
Cool. Hey, what's his name? Jeffrey Lurie? I think, was that the actor's name, or I know it's
Hugh Laurie.
Hugh Laurie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked House too. The thing that was ironic about it is he's fixing everybody else, but he really couldn't fix himself. Right. And his demeanor obviously wasn't somebody I'd be pumped up about, but I guess if I'm on my last resort, I'll take what I can get at that point in time. But it was a pretty cool show. All right. So you're getting, you kind of got a little inspiration going and everything else, and you go off to university, and when you're in university, are you thinking at some point in time that you're potentially going to own your own business someday, or are you thinking more about going to work for a high-tech company such as Tesla and getting a really good job and going down that route?
Yeah, you know what? I've been basically running little businesses since the playground of elementary school. I started initially with, up in Canada, and we didn't have those. Lance Armstrong had those Live Strong bracelets that were so like everyone was wearing them at one point. And then Nike came out with all the baller sort of band, same sort of bracelet concept. And I would buy those, get those from the States, and I'd sell them up in Canada on the playground. So buy them for $1, sell them for $3. And that's kind of how the entrepreneurial side of things came to be. Also, there are things like, there were different candies down in the States, like Laffy Taffy and Nerds Rope and that kind of fun stuff. We didn't have that in Canada either. So I'd buy them for $0.25 and sell them for $1 on the playground too. So that's how the entrepreneurial sort of foundation started. It started kind of like, I think, the age of 10. And my locker was just loaded with goodies for other kids, really. And then my piggy bank, or my little coin jar, was just filling up quickly. I had, we have loonies and toonies, so $1 and $2 coins. I was just filling up with $1 and $2 coins up here. So that's how that started. But then, I never thought that could be a foundation for something, for a career. You're a kid, you don't get paid an allowance or a big allowance or anything of that sort. And you're just being resourceful and just having fun. Right. But then when things, in university, I initially wanted to be a doctor. I thought that'd be the path. After my first year, I think the standard was you got to be above an 85% average. I think I was sitting at like 74 after my first year. I'm like, oh man, well, maybe I should have had a couple more nights in, or I should have, cut back on some of the extracurriculars like sports and whatnot, and spent more time in the library. And I realized, that's not me. I love to play basketball. I love to stay fit. Movement, I think, is so critical in your mental and physical health. And those are, two are very intertwined. And it's a big part of my lifestyle. So I didn't want to really change that. So I wanted to stay in science. Chemistry and biology is what I was in initially. And I ended up transferring into geophysics and commerce, a little commerce minor, because I wanted to stay in science and do something applied. And I learned, there's a lot of job prospects in whether it be resource exploration, or, earthquake sort of research and prevention, or, predicting the next seismic event. And geophysics seemed very compelling. So I jumped into that. And I thought I'd be doing something 9 to 5, working for an engineering firm. But actually I got a summer job by chance with Tesla. And they were just opening up operations on the ground in Vancouver. First store, I was one of the original hires here at Tesla in Vancouver, and which is now actually the biggest Tesla market per capita in North America. So it's pretty wild. Wow. And so I got that job. It actually taught me a lot, though, of how to be super gritty. It's funny, you think of Tesla, you're like, it's this massive company now, but back then it had about a $40 billion market cap, which is still huge. But in Canada, we had no support. we were like we were on an island. So my boss there, she was awesome. She was very, very scrappy and taught us to dig deep and think outside of the box, get creative. How are we going to educate the masses about an electric car company? You know, just with minimal resources. So we were very resourceful, and it felt like we were running our own little startup up in Canada, and yeah, it was quite interesting. So that kind of was the foundation for some of the next steps in life during my career. But after that, I left Tesla after about a year and a half, or just under 2 years, sorry, and then I worked in engineering, and I was working in the 9 to 5 life, and I thought it was the life for me. And I you know what, I was fighting tooth and nail, actually running it like my own business as a geophysicist. I was the first hire with no experience, and then grew it from me to 4 people in a year. And was running it like my own business, cared way too much, but I wasn't really feeling like I was getting rewarded in the right ways. So I had to make a little bit of a jump.
So when you made that jump, you mentioned before you're pretty active and you like basketball and you like to exercise and what have you. Is there some moment that triggered this thought to start No Days Wasted and come up with these hydrating products, or was it just pure luck, where it's just one day something happened and you went from there?
Yeah, I think it was a personal science experiment that was turned into a business. Really, the foundation of science and being passionate about that all through high school and university was really important. Being able to say, hey, if I have a question about something. So to give a little more context, you'd always listen to friends. Hey, after having a few drinks, make sure you're loading up on B vitamins or drinking a bunch of water or having a, really high sugar, high electrolyte sports beverage or something like that. And I came to realize none of that stuff really worked too well. So I dove deep into the science. Whenever I had a question, I would access, our a database of literature, of scientific literature, published literature that's out there that would, showcase all the studies really that have been done on the topics and different ingredients. And I came across some ingredients that seemed very promising. DHM, L-cysteine, milk thistle, prickly pear. And I said, hey, these seem like really incredible ingredients. How do we, what products are out there? What can I try? There seemed to be nothing really available. You could get capsules of certain things one-off here and there, but I said, we need to create an optimized formula. I'm going to test it on myself and my friends. So I started ordering raw materials, like the bulk powders and all that. And it just, it was really a personal science experiment. My lab was my kitchen to start, and we went from there.
So just I'm serious when I ask this question. So was the genesis of it more about hangover protection, post party the night before, or was it more, or do you want to solve that problem, but then you were also thinking about hydration through athletic activity, and eventually I'm sure you're thinking big, where your drink then supplants Gatorade, for example, or Powerade, going forward. Is that, kind of walk us through that process?
Totally. So one of the things I actually learned was that the toxins associated with alcohol are 80% of the problem. And there was a big misconception about that. So alcohol is a poison. It's broken down into something 20 times more toxic than itself, called acetaldehyde. And that is what builds up in your system and reaches peak levels the next morning when you wake up. So your liver enzymes, ADH breaks down alcohol, and ALDH breaks down acetaldehyde. The problem is ALDH performs very, very poorly. So that's what I came to learn in some of the science, and then said, hey, how do we, boost the effectiveness of those enzymes? With that being said, so the focus was less on the hydration front. It was more on the detoxification front and clearing this misconception that, alcohol, the only solution for, call it reducing the negative after effects of alcohol, is hydration. It is getting ahead of the problem, being very forward thinking, and getting a jump on the whole thing and reducing the buildup of toxins. So that was the focus. And when I came to realize that's like the light bulb sort of moment, and it was like, hey, okay, we have something here that's unique, rather than targeting the big sports beverage brands that crush it, right? And that's not even the arena we want to play in.
Okay. So I guess a couple things. One, having that giant glass of water before you go to bed after you've drank doesn't really do you much good. And then two, next day when you're feeling bad, people assume that by drinking water, they're solving a hydrating issue, but what they're really doing is flushing out the toxins through water. But it's a very slow process, and that's why people with severe hangovers take the majority of the day to get rid of most of those toxins. As a lay person, is that how I'm reading that?
Well, the truth is actually it'll take longer for those toxins to be broken down and kind of excreted out of your system through sweat and going to the bathroom and whatnot. But you still need to hydrate. That's 20% of the problem. I think that's the more obvious part of the problem to solve, because we do eat salty foods, right? We do drink water in tandem, or we do naturally drink drink electrolytes and things like that. We actually have our own electrolyte products as well. That's that 20%, but really the 80% being DHM Detox is the 2 capsules you take while drinking. Got
it. Okay. Why does the liver do a bad job of getting rid of those toxins?
Well, it's not actually the liver itself. It's the enzymes, the liver enzymes. So the truth is, our bodies aren't designed to consume the way we consume. And I'm not even talking about, we don't encourage binging at all. It's all about balance, right? It's finding your balance. There's social activities in the evening. There's celebrations. There's things that, you don't necessarily want to miss out on. And sometimes they involve a drink or two. But with that being said, the liver wasn't designed for this. And the enzymes it produces aren't either. Alcohol ultimately, and this is a big part of the education with the brand, and our social responsibility is to let people know, hey, look, the consuming alcohol is not good for you. But if you're gonna do it, make sure that you're aware of the impact. And there's a reason you don't feel so hot the next day. But if you can break down those toxins, and basically the product acts as a cofactor for the enzymes, it improves the function of it. And it has to do a lot with the rate of consumption usually, and also the volume. And naturally, our body doesn't like that. So that's why those enzymes don't perform so well.
So just to clarify for our audience, you're not a compound pharmaceutical, for example. The DHM Detox is similar to, let's say, vitamin D3 or some other type of supplement. Is that 100%?
Yeah, it's a herbal. Okay. It's a herbal supplement. Essentially, it's a blend of very powerful antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, and herbal vegan ingredients. For example, DHM actually is a beautiful ingredient. It comes from one of the sources of it is Hovenia dulcis. It's a Japanese raisin tree. So basically a tree that bears shriveled up fruit. And it's been used in Asia for centuries. They actually used to take the plant and steep it into a tea at the end of their night. And that would help a lot in feeling better the next day. So, it's coming from traditional Chinese herbal medicine, but there's a pretty solid science leg to stand on.
So you had these great ideas and you have this product in mind. Now let's talk a little bit about the tactics behind that, and not necessarily the branding piece of it, but just getting the ingredients and then getting it manufactured and so on and so forth. How does that work?
That was interesting because I didn't know a whole lot, but actually I got really lucky. When I was working at the engineering firm I was working at, a friend of mine said, hey, I'm going for a site visit of this supplement manufacturing facility. I'd love for you to come just tag along and you can see what's it's all about. I'm like, it's interesting, but like supplements, I take some protein powder here and there after a workout, but okay, cool, I'll come along, whatever, right? I didn't think too much into it. Got the whole tour, and then a year and a half later, it comes out that like, hey, I have an idea for a supplement. So, and not just an idea, sort of I've brute forced it as much as I could on the back end. And really that experience in visiting gave me a lot of insight into how to approach it. Who do I need to talk to? What kind of, co-packer, co-manufacturer do I need? Where should they be based? What are volume minimums? What scale do these guys operate on? How much money is needed? So that evolved into me finding a manufacturer, and then doing planning an initial run, and having that initial run be fueled by a crowdfunding campaign that I did on Indiegogo. So I said, okay, I don't really have much money. I had like 5-10 grand saved up from my job. And I was like, okay, let's put that in. Let's take it as far as we can. And then the rest will crowdfund the first production run. And did just that in 45 days, had about $32,000 in sales.
Wow. And is the crowdfund equity, or is it a convertible note, or what's the process to return the money, I guess?
Yeah, the actual process is that we were providing the product as a pre-order with a heavy discount. So there's no equity, no anything of that nature. Crowdfunding is a beautiful idea, using like an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter, because if you have a product-based business, you're able to produce it. Basically, the customers are pre-ordering to fund your first production run.
Wow. It's a great idea.
Yeah. And you set that expectation. So like most of the time, they don't expect to receive anything for about 6 months. Right. But they're interested in backing, an entrepreneur, or you got to do a good job of storytelling and indicating what problem you're solving, and really all the marketing side of things still exists, but the platform also does a good job of assisting you with that.
And are you manufacturing out of Canada?
We actually manufacture in the U.S. So
you do? Okay.
Manufacture and distribute in the U.S. That's our key market. And, I'm just grateful to live in Vancouver and have this be my home base. But most of what we do is down in the States.
Wow. Which state are you manufacturing out of?
We're actually just in the Northeast, so not too far from your neck of the woods.
Got it. Good stuff. And then when did you decide to expand to other products?
So we actually had the original DHM Detox as a standalone product, and it was very sciencey looking. And, I thought people cared about the science, but they really just wanted to know that we knew what we were doing. But we ended up doing a rebrand, and this is to the logo and sort of the look and feel that you see behind me today, and into what we have here. And that happened in the summer of 2020. Actually, right on the onset of COVID, we saw it as an opportunity to take a step back, figure out our messaging. How can we, better share our story with our audience, and also in turn, it will help build a bigger audience. And there was a great opportunity with some very talented people that just started their own agency. We were their first client. And we just made it happen summer of 2020. So we did that rebrand, and also decided we're going to launch a new product alongside of it. So brought our hydration replenisher out, which is an electrolyte drink mix with immune support ingredients, but also quite a bit lower sugar content, only 5 grams of sugar compared to some of the other sports drinks out there and other electrolyte mixes. So we brought that on October 2020 when we launched that rebrand.
So looking back on it, was COVID good for you? Where it gave you a chance to rebrand and reset and be ready when the market opened up again?
You know what? That's a great question. I think for a lot of people, and myself and No Days Wasted included, there was a silver lining to COVID, because it allows you to take a step back and really figure out what you're doing, right? Slow down for a minute here, and just ensure that you are very deliberate in doing the right thing. So I would say, yeah, in a way, it was pretty foundational for us.
Yeah, I think we felt the same way at Optimal Bio. I mean, when, they first, back in March of 20, when, they did the old, 2-week shutdown that turned out to be a lot longer than that. We were concerned because our company really is to try to put people in optimal health, and it's not backed by insurance, so it's a cash pay business. And with everybody home and quote unquote lockdown, we did see a little bit of a dip in March, but then April, it came back really strong. And I think one of the things that we did was, we looked at the science, we looked at the data, and obviously the less obese, the healthier you are, the more likely that if you were to get COVID, you would recover. And then obviously looking at the statistics over time, where there literally is a 99% recovery rate for the majority of the population, that helped us, send out content and brand in that regard. And that then got a lot of our patients back, to come in on a regular basis. So, we were there for us too. There was a silver lining, in that as well. And like I said, our belief is we believe in health, and we don't want you going to the doctor. We don't want you to get sick. And if we can help you balance your hormones, and we can provide supplements and wellness advice to you as well, then hopefully you're protecting yourself. There's no guarantees, obviously, but you're in a much better situation.
Yeah, I think that's important. Like, COVID, it really forced a lot of people to focus on their health and understand the things that, what makes you a healthy person, right? And maybe some of your habits that you need to either cut back on or eliminate completely, right?
Yeah. And, we at Optimal Bio got a little frustrated because it's in the States, at least, we felt that some of our health leaders should have been out there telling people actually to go outside, to go walk around the block, to exercise, and, to eat a better balanced diet, during that time. And unfortunately, I think a lot of people, didn't get that message because it wasn't given. And as a result, they ended up gaining we kind of joke about it down here, but, the COVID-15 or what have you. And that just actually made them, probably, more vulnerable than they would have otherwise been. But, with that being said, it sounds like, you obviously, looked at your situation, had some opportunities, and it seems like you're capitalizing on them at this point in time. So kind of give us an idea profile wise, how many employees do you have right now? What are some of the, your expansion opportunities? Where do you see yourself in 3 or 4 years?
Totally. Yeah. Actually, one point I wanted to touch on, I'm just going to show you a couple of our products here that
Sure.
we have. They're immune support gummies. So one's vitamin D, and then the other one is vitamin C and zinc with elderberry. But one of the things, like you mentioned, there was no narrative to push healthy living and to make sure you're getting enough vitamin D. Instead, we were locked inside, right? We're locked inside, but really we need sunshine. We're like plants. We're like flowers. We need to see the sun, right? And I think that narrative is still not even being pushed by the health officials and leaders in this world that, hey, you need to take care of yourself. Here is the recommended daily exercise. Here is a recommended daily amount of vitamin D. Here's the vitamin C you should be taking. Here's zinc. Those 3 ingredients are so critical in your immune function. So it's funny. We need more of our people with platforms and voices to be pushing this, because this is what's going to help us live longer, right? You can still cheat. You can have your cheat meals. You can do all that. That's fine. All in moderation and balance. It's totally fine. But the foundation is built on healthy living and a healthy lifestyle. So part of the reason why we came up with these gummies is because, we thought it was a fun, playful way for people to take their vitamins, the vitamin D, C, zinc, and elderberry. But just shifting gears there, for our company, we've grown a bit. We like to keep a lean team. We have 5 people here in Vancouver. Someone on the content creation side of things, which I think is very important. In this day and age, you can't be a good CPG brand without being able to tell a story and share, who's behind the brand, what you guys stand for, what you believe in, right? And then also we have someone who heads up our marketing, a marketing manager. also sort of a customer success and operations manager, a bit of a Swiss Army knife, who does it all. And then myself, so I wear many different hats as a CEO, and then a graphic designer.
Sounds great. I mean, I'm glad you brought up your vitamins as well, because I'm going to go back to that, because you touched on a very important thing. And I remember being listening to a live podcast with 3 or 4 doctors out of New York in this business network that I'm in, and we had an opportunity to ask questions. So it probably was around May timeframe of 2020, and obviously the narrative was just primarily about COVID, and they were in New York City, so they were talking about the deaths and the caseloads that were up in that neck of the woods, and they were talking about some of the therapies that the doctors were trying at that point in time, and so I did ask a question about D3 and about zinc and about C, and I'm thinking, I wonder if they're actually going to read this question and get an answer. And to their credit, they did. And all 3 doctors basically said the following: well, we don't think it can hurt you. So I guess because it can't hurt you, it's okay to take it. We just simply don't know if it's going to help you. And I'm thinking to myself, in our labs down here, the range, if you're over 30, then you're, considered good to go. That's the USDA recommended daily allowance. And that basically prevents you from getting rickets, right? But your optimal levels should be anywhere from 60 to 80. And 100's not going to hurt you. And you really can't, unless you're going to pump, 300, IUs daily. 300,000 IUs daily. You're going to be okay. Right. So, but the funny thing is, some of our patients then go back to their regular doctor to do physicals and what have you. And, they're always testing their D3 now, their vitamin D rather. And, they're around 80 and the doctors tell them they got to get it down because it might be toxic down the road. And so I think, thankfully, over time, people are starting to get the message, but it's still frustrating because there's this old line of thinking that we're still out in the sun all the time, and we don't need a lot of supplementation. When in reality, to your point earlier, we're not really outside a lot, and on top of that, we were told not to go outside for 5 or 6 months. So anyhow, I'm glad you brought that up because I did want to come back to that.
No, I totally agree with you. And even understanding like, hey, what amount, I think something is very important. I was listening to, if Dr. Rhonda Patrick, she was mentioning about raising baseline vitamin C levels and the amount of vitamin C you need to eat, you need to consume for it to even register and bump your baseline vitamin C levels up. And it's like the bare minimum is 200 milligrams at a given time with one dose. So, and that's just for it to move at all, right? So whenever I consume vitamin C now, I'm taking like 2,500 milligrams at once because you want to have a good healthy amount. You want to boost those baseline levels up so your immunity is there and it's strong.
So did you have to, so obviously you mentioned you have the gummy and what have you. How did you perfect the taste to it?
Yeah, we worked with some confectionery chemists as well, which is nice. The nice thing about vitamin D actually is that, the dosage is so low, right? We're talking micrograms, whereas most supplements are taken in milligrams or grams. So micrograms are 10 to the negative 6 of a gram. So it's such a insignificant, like from a mass or volume perspective, the amount of vitamin D you actually need from a mass perspective is very low. So it's almost untraceable. So you can take a tasty gummy and put vitamin D in there and not even know it's there.
So what's your number one seller right now?
Our number one sellers is, without saying, DHM Detox. This is what our claim to fame is. This is, it's very applicable and to every I call it to weekly life for people. And also it's something that really is unique because there's not, I think this category, this alcohol health category or balance category is not super widely known. It's still sort of niche in a way. But people are catching on. People are learning that there are products out there that can help them, feel better, and they're getting educated on some of the things that we're doing. So DHM Detox, without saying, without question, is our number one seller. And then the hydration is slightly behind that, and then the gummies do well as well.
And where can you get this? Can you get this off Amazon, or do you have to go direct to your site?
Yeah, so you can, the best place is our website, because you can subscribe and save and get a wicked discount and all that. So that's nodayswasted.co, or just Google No Days Wasted. And then also we're on Amazon as well. So if you want it super quick, you can go on Amazon and just search No Days Wasted. We are there. Also, if you need it very, very quick, for DHM Detox, we're on GoPuff, which is an awesome delivery platform. So it's a convenience delivery platform, about 20 minutes or less in most major cities across the U.S.
Wow. Like most companies we speak to these days, they seem to have supply chain issues here and there. How about you? Any issues in getting ingredients or being able to, get things out in a timely manner?
Yeah, it's been interesting. Costs are definitely rising in a big way. So that, and they've risen, already, but we continue to see some fluctuation there and uncertainty. Timelines have gone up as well. I mean, supplement industry is like you're producing these large bulk quantities all at once, and they've gone up, a couple months. So the important thing is to stay ahead of it. You want to sell out, but you never want to sell out and not have product, right? So that's kind of where we're at. I think we're doing a good job of staying on top of things and forecasting. But the goal is to continue to grow, really push into retail across the U.S. and be accessible at the point of sale when people are grocery shopping or, at the liquor store or wherever the case may be. But we've seen a bit, but not as bad as, some other industries have been.
Yeah, we ran into a little problem with our supplement supplier with some of the supplements, and there's like a 3 or 4 week wait, on some of them at this point in time. Thankfully, it's not, the main ones like D and C and zinc and what have you. From an entrepreneur standpoint, obviously you're launched, you have product out there, you're generating revenue. Hopefully you're generating profit as well. What are the goals? Where do you see this thing, 10, 15 years? Where do you see yourself? Do you want to become the next Bezos? Do you want to, give it to your kids someday? Like, what's your ultimate strategy?
Totally. I'm very process oriented, and delayed gratification is actually more important than instant gratification for me. And I think that actually came from playing basketball my whole life. And you really have to work day in, day out at your craft to be good at it. So, this is my sort of mantra is chop wood, carry water. Just kind of, keep working towards it. Do the things daily that make you great and make you special. But in terms of where we want to go, we want to really be accessible in all sales channels and really have the product where it's commonplace. We want to be ubiquitous with solving some of the problems that we do. And one of them being, promoting balance around drinking and feeling better the next day. So really the retail push is a big focus for us right now. We actually hired 2 salespeople, an awesome father-son combo, out of Ohio. And so we're excited for all that's to come there. And actually just onboarded with one of the biggest natural products distributors in the US, UNFI. So we'll be ramping things up on that front for sure. But you know what? Just keep doing what we're doing. Keep working at our craft. Keep spreading the good word. Great conversations like this really, really help us well. In really getting the word out there. Yeah. So, I mean, stay process oriented. I want to grow this business. I want to employ more people. But you know what? Things you never know where things are going to go. So if you set an expectation, you want to be able to meet it. So I think aiming for the stars, going to the moon, that's our goal. But I think just staying in love with the process and making sure that we're waking up every day, having fun, and doing good stuff.
So it sounds like you enjoy the journey of going through the process, right?
Definitely.
So all of us, when we're going through the journey, and whether we started something and it's 2 years later, or it's 25 years later, and then you're ready to exit at that point in time. If you look at your situation right now, anything you would have done differently from start to now if you could do it over again?
You know what? That's a wonderful question. I think there are a ton of things I would have done differently, but at the same time, you learn so much from the way you did things that looking back in hindsight, it's everything helped you learn. Every mistake you made helped you learn and become better, and gave you a better and broader understanding of what it may take to be successful and achieve your daily wins, weekly wins, yearly wins, and your goals. So I guess one of the things would be to, if there's anything specific, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't think I would change a thing, to be honest, just for that reason alone. It's all very foundational and helps you get to the top. The truth is, life is very much like a sine wave, or like if you've ever been hooked up to an EKG heart rate monitor or seen someone hooked up to it, it goes up, down, beep, beep, beep. And that is life. That is business. That is everything we do. There's ups and there's downs, right? And the truth is, if everything is the same all the time, it's going to be, it's flatline, right? It's just flat. It's the same, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's mediocre. So, and that means you're not living. So that's kind of how I approach things. I think it keeps you very grounded, but allows you to be aware of when you are in a tough spot, and how to pull yourself out of that, and understanding that, the challenges and the whether it be small or bigger failures or setbacks are part of this process. That is business. That is life. So yeah, wouldn't change a thing.
That's great. Yeah, I think in my situation, I was in the clinical research business, and we did oncology clinical trial work for biotech and pharmaceutical, not the big guys, but the emerging growth ones, mostly in phase 1, phase 2. And we were a bootstrapper. I was not a debt person at all. And, so we kind of had this philosophy of grow as you go. And then finally we got big enough where we then started to acquire companies. And I look back on it and had these opportunities to acquire businesses a lot sooner and potentially use, some leverage to do that. And so for me, when I look at my business, I always think, I should have just done a little bit quicker. But it all worked out in the end. So I don't have any regrets on that. And if you look at where we are with Optimal Bio, we started out with one office, and, we're in 5 different locations, throughout the Southeast, and we're getting ready to expand into South Carolina soon. So we're taking a little bit of a different strategy there. And, the beauty of this business, which I love, is the fact that, we have 330 million patients, potential patients, right? In my world, we had companies, and we had, that were limited, because they had to be funded by private equity, or they had to be funded by venture capital. So I like the product business better, although we're in services. But it's a service though it's more like a product. So you're in Vancouver. It sounds like you have some people that work for you that are in the States. Your manufacturing is in the States. So are you ever coming south?
Yeah. I make frequent trips. So I'm there every so often. I mean, we'll definitely have to get together for a beer, a cocktail, or a coffee. One of these days. I haven't been to North Carolina before. So, here's a reason to come make a visit.
Well, if I get together with the beer, I'll make sure I have the DHM detox first.
You got it.
Hey, so you mentioned basketball. What's your favorite basketball team?
So unfortunately, my favorite teams have both been taken from me. So the Vancouver Grizzlies obviously are in Memphis, and the Seattle Sonics are the Oklahoma City Thunder. So, I'm a lover of the game, and when it's played well, and there's so much talent in the league these days. So I don't necessarily have a favorite team, but I'm a 3-point shooter. Have been my whole life. My favorite player of all time is Reggie Miller from the Indiana Pacers. Very loyal guy. Played 18 years in the league and with one team, and really paved the way for 3-point shooters, I'd say. So I really enjoy watching Steph Curry for that reason. The things he does beyond the arc is, it's mind boggling sometimes to watch. But really just a lover of the game. So I'm kind of agnostic in that way. But if I'd had to pick 2 teams that I'm cheering for, I think Golden State out of the West, and I like Milwaukee as well. I like Giannis and his approach. He's very humble. He's very he takes that chop wood, carry water mentality with him, and also came from a very interesting background. A lot of came from poverty in Greece and from nothing. It's just beautiful to see how far you can come in life and still just keep going and carry through that foundational mentality all the way through. So that's where I'm at with basketball.
Yeah, I was glad to see him win last year, and it's watching this Magic Johnson special on Hulu, and then of course the entertaining one that's some of it's based on fact and some of it's fiction on HBO at this point in time. But just seeing highlights and looking back in the game and how it's evolved over the years, but more importantly, especially in the documentary side, just how much he wanted to win, right? And he willed victory out of defeat sometimes in games, and that's how I felt Giannis did last year in the championship series. Deeper question for you: how does basketball and what you learned about basketball correlate to your business at this point in time?
Yeah, I think it's very, there's so many parallels between basketball and business, and it really instills that work ethic. So you have to be able to work hard, and also good things take time. You're not gonna have a great jump shot by spending 3 hours in the gym once, right? You're gonna have a great jump shot by working on it day in, day out. So same goes for the business, and that's kind of growing up from the age of 4 years old. I played basketball, and I learned that along the way. Sort of the easy and the hard way, and really was so diligent in playing basketball, and where I became a shooter, and I was obsessed with it. And I know what it takes on that front. So I've just transferred that over into my business life and being obsessed with the process and working on myself in the business. Those parallels are, it's unmatched, really.
So were you a little bit of a fish out of water in Vancouver? Being more of being a basketball player as opposed to, let's say, a hockey player or, some other, winter in outdoor sport?
Yeah, definitely. I spent my days in the gym, shooting hoops rather than being on a ski hill after school and that kind of thing. So all my buddies they learn to do these crazy flips and 360s and all that off jumps, and I'm like, now when I ski, I'm like, hey, I just want to make it down the mountain. I'll go fast here and there, but I'm not trying to do anything too crazy here.
Right.
But yeah, a little bit. I think the game has really grown in BC, in the Vancouver area, and in Canada. I think Steve Nash obviously was a very important part of the foundation for that, and winning 2 MVPs back to back, and being from Victoria, BC, and all that, right? But the game has grown. The talent level, as it's growing in the NBA, it's growing. All the youngsters coming out of Canada are there as well. So it's cool to see how it evolved. Actually, the high school I went to, 2 years after I left, they started a basketball academy. So you could leave half day, leave at lunch and go play basketball and train, as long as you're meeting a threshold of like 15 hours a week or something like that of training. Then you wouldn't have to go to your last 2 classes. So it was pretty wild stuff. But Yeah, it was pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool. Usually, when we can get ready to conclude, we have a tradition, and the tradition is to, ask the guests to give our audience, 5 takeaways. So 5 pieces of advice or 5 things they've learned that they want to pass on to the audience. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, can you provide us with some 5 takeaways that might help us, become healthier, become better business people, become better people in general? Any tips, whatever.
Definitely. So, I mean, the first one would be, hey, be process oriented, however you can. Focus on the process, focus on the journey, because instant results, you don't often get instant results, and usually they don't last very long. So being process oriented is number one. I think that's really important for people to do. They'll get so much more out of life. Number 2, we'll shift gears a little bit. Hey, take care of your health. Exercise daily is so critical. Even if it's for 20 minutes, break a sweat, get the blood flowing, get the heart pumping. It's great for your physical and your mental health. Number 3, I'd say be conscious of what you're putting in your body, and always understand and have that awareness. If you're going to be drinking, highly recommend our products and understanding what to do. So a little plug there. But if you're drinking, take your DHM detox, feel great. You can use, we'll make a little Optimal Bio discount code. So use Optimal Bio on our site, 20% off. That's for you guys. And then also, let's see, that was 3. Make sure you get a good night's sleep. Sleep is so critical in feeling good throughout the day and for that balance. So understand what it takes. You need a bit of routine. Your body has a circadian rhythm that works very, very well, and make sure you get some good sleep between 6 and 8 hours. And lastly, I actually had this one, and it kind of jogged my memory here, but lastly, I think just surround yourself with great people. You are a product of your environment and your surroundings. So, it's been said a million times before, the 3 or 4 people you spend the most time with are who you eventually become or who you are. So surround yourself with positive people, with people that encourage you to be better, and also are striving to do great things and are passionate and towards what they do themselves.
Great stuff. So are you going to email us the code to get that 20% discount, or do you already know what it is and you can just tell us?
Just use Optimal Bio at checkout, and all one word. We'll put it together. That'll be 20% off. So nodayswasted.co, punch in Optimal Bio, and there we go, 20% off all our products.
Fantastic. Well, Nishal, thank you very much for a great conversation today. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck, and love to have you on down the road to, check on your progress and see how many more products you have and what the benefits of those are going to be as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Honestly, it was an absolute pleasure. I love the conversation. Love learning more about you and chatting today. And can't wait to talk in the future and come down and visit you in North Carolina as well.
Love to have you. And remember, nodayswasted.co, and Optimal Bio is the code. Thank you, everybody.
This has been a production of Optimal Bio. Optimal Bio is CEO Tyler Brandon, podcast host and partner Jim Baker, medical director Greg Brandon, production assistance by Core Media, Beth Grabencourt, administrator, Kevin Duthu, executive producer. The podcast can be found on our website, optimalbio.com, on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Our theme song is Sunwave by Paradiso, provided by Epidemic Sound.